Chataway. 0891. 18. 18. Chataway. 0891. 18.
Miss. Miss. Pizza Hut pan pizzas, unless I'm mistaken. Thank you, Miss. Come on, Gareth. It only took me 6 years to get over it. Have some pan pizza.
Pan pizza from Pizza Hut. A light, fluffy base with a crispy crust smothered with generous toppings.
Thanks a lot, boys. I feel much better now.
This time is it the post?
Pizza Hut pan pizza. It always hits the spot.
There are key moments in everyone's life. Choosing the right pension is one of them. You have to balance high performance with security. General Accident are key people for pensions, and with their Pension Assured Fund, retire on your chosen date and your fund is totally safe. Whatever happens, call General Accident free on 0500 100 200 for exciting returns, safely managed.
A lack of confidence can come from a phobia, being frightened, snakes or spiders, and a fear of small spaces. But that's one phobia we can help you with.
New Citroen Saxo is available with power steering, specially engineered to give maximum power at a slower speed. And meter-maid phobia? Incurable.
There is a better way to relieve constipation. Senecot with natural senna.
Here at the Sofa Company, you can buy this beautiful sofa for less than £9 a month and pay no deposit. Take 5 years interest-free credit and get a free 5-year guarantee. Or claim 100% cash back in 5 years. It's only the Sofa Company that gives you these amazing deals. 5 years free credit or claim 100% cash back in 5 years. And remember, order now and you can get a delivery before Christmas. So, for quality deals on quality sofas, get down to the Sofa Company now.
You go by DeLonghi Dragon. Dragon on. The DeLonghi Dragon portable oil-filled radiator. It heats the room faster than any other oil-filled radiator and it comes with a 5-year guarantee. The DeLonghi Dragon. Extraordinary.
Delivery and installation are part of the deal at Radio Rentals.
These aren't just hits, they're the greatest hits of '96, the year of Oasis, and far more. And it's all here. 40 absolute chart smashes. At the unbeatable price of $12.99 for a great double CD. The biggest hits, the brightest stars, the greatest value. The greatest hits of '96 on Telstar.
The 80s Collection.
It's the final countdown.
Time Life Music brings you an electrifying decade of music in one ultimate collection. Start with 24 classic hits from 1986 at the TV offer price of just $4.99 plus postage and packing. It's the best in 80s pop and it's not available in the shops. Then audition other great albums from the 80s with no obligation to buy. Call free on 0800 444 877 now. Call 0800 444 877 now and order the best of the 80s at this special introductory price. That's 0800 444 877. Call now.
I am the god of hellfire.
Classic rock from Time Life Music. Born to be Wild for the TV offer price of just $4.99 plus postage and packing. Then audition other classic rock albums with no obligation to buy. Call free on 0800 444 877 now. It's the history of rock, and it's not available in the shops. Call free on 0800 444 877 and order the best of rock at this special introductory price. That's 0800 444 877. Call now.
At last to part. La la la.
Strange happenings that could only be one in a million. Has a fertility statue helped 28 women in the same pub fall pregnant? How did a dead jogger identified by his wife run back to life? How did an earring save a woman from a brush with death by a bullet? The show where truth is stranger than fiction. One in a Million, Sunday at 7 on Yorkshire.
Commander, we're here. Rise and shine. Come along. During your little snooze, many technological advances have occurred. Like McLean's Total Clean. All of these toothpastes in a toothpaste tastes good too. Not quite with us, Commander? No change there, then.
New McLean's Total Clean. Did you McLean today?
Sure, I want to look great. Just make it easy.
Laboratoire Garnier creates a new kind of permanent hair color. New Bell Color 20-minute Color-Ease Gel.
They must have had me in mind.
So easy, so natural, with natural oils to care for your hair. No mess gel, stays put. Just leave 20 minutes. Natural looking color, healthy looking hair.
And it lasts.
New Bell Color 20-minute Color-Ease Gel, formulated and controlled by Laboratoire Garnier, Paris.
I can live with this. Now in Yorkshire, John Hammond brings us up to date with the employment scene in Job Finder. A woman vanishes without trace.
Her husband says she's left him. Vanished. I don't believe him.
So you killed her?
With no evidence to arrest him, a policewoman goes undercover.
Ask him about Barbara, now!
Can't get rid of the idea. She just might turn up one day.
Can she get him to confess?
What do I do if she comes back?
Kiss and Tell, Saturday at 9 on Yorkshire. There's early morning entertainment on GMTV starting at 6, and the next regional news is at 6:15. This is Yorkshire Television. Now we join ITN.
From the studios of ITN, the news with Gwyn Jones.
Good morning, the headlines. Martin Bryant admits to killing 35 people during a shooting spree in Tasmania. President Clinton builds a new cabinet for a second term. And tough new police powers in the crackdown on combat knives. Martin Bryant, the man accused of the worst mass killing in modern Australian history, has changed his plea and confessed to all the 35 murders. 29-year-old Bryant had earlier pleaded not guilty to a total of 72 charges arising from the shooting spree in April at Port Arthur in Tasmania. Libby Vina reports from Australia.
Security was intense for the short but dramatic hearing at Tasmania's Supreme Court. After denying his guilt for 6 months, Martin Bryant conceded what to everyone else seemed obvious, that he was responsible for the murder of 35 people at the historic Port Arthur site. Altogether, he faced 72 charges of murder, attempted murder and assault. But far from showing remorse, as each charge was read out, he could barely contain his laughter as he uttered the word guilty. At one stage, his own lawyer had to intervene to try and quieten him. His change of plea does mean that many victims who survived the shooting spree at Port Arthur won't now have to give evidence at a trial. Instead, a judge will hear reports about Bryant's mental state before handing out sentences for this, the world's worst peacetime massacre. Libby Wiener, ITN, Australia.
President Bill Clinton is back in Washington, ready to begin his second term in the White House. And he's already grappling with a new crisis. Resignations from some high-profile members of his administration are forcing him to rebuild his cabinet. Nick Valentine reports.
Even while there were still bubbles in the celebration champagne, the president was leaving Little Rock on Air Force One on his way back to Washington to grapple with the course of his next administration. And the first question is, who's going to be on it? There'll have to be a new Secretary of State for a start. Warren Christopher has already said he wants to resign soon after the January inauguration. State Department officials say it's far too early to speculate about who'll succeed him.
We just had our own national elections yesterday, and President Clinton won a major victory. I think he deserves a day or so to savor that victory. I don't think today is a day to make any kind of personnel announcements. When we have announcements to make, we will make those announcements.
A leading candidate to succeed Mr. Christopher would be America's UN ambassador, last night welcoming President Clinton's re-election.
Absolutely tremendous. As we watched last night, President Clinton's fabulous speech explaining what he was going to do in a second term.
Former Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell, the President's special envoy to the Irish peace talks, is also rumoured to be in the running. As is Richard Holbrooke, the man credited with bringing peace to Bosnia. But it's not just the vacancy at Foggy Bottom. There'll also be an empty chair to fill at the Pentagon, with Mr. Clinton likely to receive a resignation letter from Secretary of Defense William Perry, widely praised as one of the best to hold that job since 1945. So the President already has work to do, and talking to White House staffers on the lawn on his return, he made clear his debt to them.
Very often I get the credit for the work you do, and then when something goes haywire, if I make a mistake, you have to try to figure out how to clean it up. And I appreciate that. And I'm sure I'll give you other opportunities in the year ahead.
A relaxed Mr. Clinton, knowing that come what may, his place as the last president of the 20th century is secure. Nick Valentine, ITN.
Snack food giant Walkers have ordered the recall of millions of packets of crisps amid fears that pieces of glass may have fallen into some bags. The company, which sells 500,000 packets of crisps an hour, said an equipment breakdown may have led to glass from an optical lens being found in some packs. It reported this morning that the supermarket chain Quick Save is about to announce the closure of around 100 stores. Stiff competition from other supermarkets is being blamed for the closures. Some staff will be offered other work, but it's feared hundreds of jobs could be lost. Every pub throughout Wales will be able to open this Sunday for the first time in 115 years. Voters in the last Welsh referendum on licensing laws have decided to scrap the last remaining ban on Sunday opening. Clergymen in North Wales mounted a determined last-ditch stand against alcohol, but were heavily defeated in the poll. In South Wales, landlords and their regulars also scored a big victory over dry campaigners. Thousands of bags which should have travelled with their owners on British Airways flights have instead been piling up at Heathrow. BA is struggling to deal with the backlog caused by belt failure on Terminal 4's baggage handling system. It's also involved in a dispute with baggage handling staff. Extra workers have been called in to try to clear the backlog of around 4,000 bags and cases. A team from Siemens, the German manufacturer, is flying in to mend the belt system. The police are to be given new powers in the crackdown on combat knives. Now they'll be free to stop and search anyone they believe to be a member of a gang known to carry knives or drugs. A Labour Party still wanted to ban all combat knives, and a backbench MP is ready to introduce their plan in a private member's bill. This from our political correspondent, Hugh Pym.
Frances Lawrence, seen here last month after the publication of her moral manifesto, told ITN she believed the latest move was encouraging. She spoke to the Home Secretary on the phone. It was her demand for a ban on combat knives which fueled the current political debate. The new stop and search powers, the government's response. Police are to be allowed to search anyone who's thought to be a member of a knife-carrying gang. and that, it's argued, will make it easier to obtain convictions.
What I have announced are important measures which will deal with the carrying of knives in public and the use of knives, and it is that which people are most concerned about.
As for knife advertisements, the Advertising Standards Authority, after a meeting with the Home Secretary, has promised to look carefully at magazines to see if there have been breaches of the industry code. All that welcomed by Labour and the Liberal Democrats, but in a meeting with Michael Howard, described as constructive, they suggested more: a ban on the sale of all large knives, with exemptions for domestic, industrial or sporting use.
We want to see these combat knives taken out of circulation, their sale effectively banned, and their marketing and advertising.
Under their plan, sellers of knives would have to prove they were for lawful use. The Home Secretary said he'd take a closer look at it. And it seems that talks between government and opposition parties will continue. If there's no progress, a backbench Labour MP has let it be known that he's ready to bring his party's proposals before the Commons in a private member's bill to be debated later this month.
More pupils return to the riding school in Halifax, West Yorkshire today, which has reopened with a new headmaster. He's already expelled 35 children, 12 of them permanently. Inspectors have given the ridings an unsatisfactory report, and the school authorities have just a month to put it right. Our Home Affairs editor Jonathan Adele reports.
I think we're feeling very positive about this morning.
Optimism from the riding's new head teacher. With the 12 worst troublemakers now permanently excluded, apart from the cameras, the atmosphere was calm.
We've got to plug away. It's going to be hard graft. We all know what we've got to do, and we've got to work together for success.
Government inspectors described the scenes of near anarchy that led them to order the school's temporary closure.
We observed one boy being badly beaten by another, and unfortunately, we were able to break that up. We also observed outside the school one adult who was at the time, I believe, drunk, having taunted the children. The reply was to stone the adult.
The government said it would send in a hit squad if things don't improve. In the meantime, it's arranged for fortnightly inspections to be made. Pupils, back at school for the first time since it was closed, say things have already improved.
It's just been a lot quieter, and it's going to be a lot better now the newer teachers are here.
Now everyone's been excluded and expelled. It's just been really quiet, and headmaster's really nice.
It's normally, everyone's just messing about, but today it was quiet.
The government has given the ridings until the 6th of December to prove it can turn itself around. But even if it does, the whole episode highlights the question of what can and should be done with the growing number of children judged too disruptive for normal classrooms.
The government's set to announce a big expansion to its controversial workfare scheme. The Employment Secretary, Gillian Shepherd, is planning to add an extra 10,000 places to the pilot schemes for the long-term unemployed already running in Hull and Kent. The scheme's being criticised because the jobless have to work for their benefit. Labour and the unions have condemned workfare as an insult to the unemployed. In the Commons, the National Heritage Select Committee will begin its hearings on proposals to ban the payment of witnesses in court cases. Today it'll take evidence from Lord Wakeham, the chairman of the Press Complaints Commission. Concern was brought to a head by the Rosemary West murder trial, when 19 witnesses received payments from newspapers and television. Now the Lord Chancellor has proposed making chequebook journalism a criminal offence. IRA terrorist and former paratrooper Peter McMillan is due to appear at York Crown Court today for sentencing. He was found guilty of bombing the army barracks in Ripon, North Yorkshire over 20 years ago. He was extradited from America earlier this year and is likely to be questioned about other IRA attacks. As the trial of Tax Inspector Michael Alcock on corruption charges continues at the Old Bailey, a jury has been hearing of the perks tax inspectors have been allowed to take. They include lunches, a free visit to the NASA Space Launch Center in America, and tickets to a Rolling Stones concert. Hal Jones reports.
Michael Alcock's corruption trial has already heard allegations about sexual perks. Now his boss at the Inland Revenue has given evidence not about sex, but rock and roll. The Rolling Stones were under investigation in the early 80s, tax inspector Roland Price told the court. Mr. Price said he was given 2 free tickets to a Stones concert and used one of them. He said he'd have attended the concert anyway in the course of his investigation. Mr. Price told the court other perks had included free lunch at a stud farm in Dublin, a visit to an American country club, a trip to the NASA Space Centre, and a free flight in a businessman's Learjet. Mr. Price told the court that the Inland Revenue accepted that it was sometimes necessary to work in an informal way in order to win the best possible tax settlement, and that all perks were sanctioned. He said he always got permission from management before accepting hospitality. The court has also heard how Mr. Alcock worked in a special tax investigation squad called the Ghostbusters. He's denied 13 corruption charges and his trial continues. Howell Jones, ITN at the Old Bailey.
Well, time now for a look around the papers, and it's politics both here and across the Atlantic that dominate the broadsheets. A smiling Clinton family adorn the front page of the Daily Telegraph, but the paper claims that behind the smiles, Whitewater still casts a shadow. While The Guardian reports that George Stephanopoulos, the advisor who helped Bill Clinton win both his presidential victories, is now set to help Tony Blair and Labour take on the Tories over here. In the meantime, it's the Labour leader's hair which is fixating several papers, The Times being no exception. The party have denied allegations that he's changed his hairstyle to woo women voters and had to admit it's because he's going bald. The Mail says scientists claim to have found a definite link between smoking and breast cancer. Women who smoke 20 cigarettes a day could be quadrupling their chances of developing the disease, according to the paper. But finally, a female pop fan has claimed that Oasis pop star Liam Gallagher bit her face. The Sun carries the allegation that the Oasis singer attacked her during a concert. Police have apparently confirmed a nose-biting incident was reported to them. Well, it's now 16 minutes to 6. You're watching the morning news from ITN. Coming up, as the refugee crisis deepens in Central Africa, Zaire's president lives in luxury in Monaco. Join us again after the break.
Look, I'm Picasso.
The year's funniest movie.
No sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Hello? Disney's Toy Story. Own it now on video.
Right, tea break over. Yeah, where's Bob? You know what he's had for breakfast? In the van.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway. Looking for adventure.
Weetabix has got enough whole wheat goodness to help keep you going all morning long.
Oi, Bob! Blimey, you had some too?
Weetabix. Once we've started you, there's no stopping you.
You don't need a deposit at Radio Rentals.
Welcome back to ITN's Morning News. Today's top story. Martin Bryant, the man accused of the worst mass killing in modern Australian history, has changed his plea and confessed to murdering 35 people last April in Port Arthur, Tasmania. Here, both main political parties are promising a crackdown on antisocial neighbours. The government is soon to bring in a new housing act, vastly increasing the powers of local councils to tackle problem tenants. It'll even allow them to evict people likely to become a nuisance. Labour is also proposing tough action, including curfews for persistent offenders. ITN's Alex Thompson reports on different approaches to tackling problem neighbours in Greater Manchester and Dundee.
Wouldn't it be nice to get on with me neighbours? But they make it very clear they've got no room for ravers.
Neighbours like Mr. David Blagden.
We had really here a tenant who was out of control, who was having parties, who was having congregations of youths and children around his home, and was really making life miserable and literally hell for his neighbours. This was 10 o'clock at night. Every night during the summer, it was like this. A lot of noise, a lot of frightened neighbours, a lot of neighbours who felt very intimidated by what was going on in this sort of area. Loud music from the cars, from the vans.
Blagden was jailed for contempt, having run up over 130 complaints for being a serial nuisance. This undercover video surveillance helped put him away, and the council makes no apology for using private eyes.
Tameside feels very strongly that it should be defending its tenants, it should be defending its residents, and if this is what we have to do, we will do this to make sure that the majority are protected from the unlawful minority.
The target one's out of his home address and it's towards his vehicle. He's wearing blue jeans and a dark-coloured leather jacket.
Independent witnesses, snoopers, spies, call them what you want. Desperate councils across Britain call them a godsend when suffering neighbours are too intimidated to complain.
We've certainly been aware of situations where witnesses have come forward, upset at the quality of life they're having to put up with, and after they have given evidence or even just reported the matter to the local council, they or their families have been the victim of violence or damage to their property.
Thus, neighbours who suffered on this problem estate still won't comment openly.
It was just horrendous. And one night, they woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, battering a hedgehog to death. And then when they'd finished battering the hedgehog to death, they actually played round us with it for an hour and a half.
This is the Monsell estate in North Manchester, and a preventative approach. Get a house here and you're under probation.
We make it perfectly clear to them that the first 12 months of their tenancy are subject to them conducting the tenancy in a reasonable manner. And we give them details of what that means, examples of the sort of things which aren't acceptable. And it would be serious antisocial behaviour that we won't tolerate. It would be violence or seriously abusive behaviour to neighbours and others on the estate, serious mistreatment of the property, or racial or similar harassment.
Become a nuisance and you're out. Draconian, perhaps, but it's turned this estate around.
Well, I think it's marvellous. And I wouldn't move for the world.
We are getting back now to the system where you were a neighbour was a neighbour. It's stopped all the crime, the drugs, and it's just a lot better.
Critics are concerned that councils, not the courts, can now evict people. But that's nothing compared to what's coming next year. From January, council tenants will, in effect, be under permanent probation. Powerful new housing laws will mean councils can evict their tenants if they're convicted of an arrestable offence or even behaving in a way likely to cause nuisance. And yet, eviction's just passing the problem on to someone, somewhere. Here in Dundee, they're trying to reverse that process, giving one more chance to support the people at the very end of the line. No Hope families will shortly move into this refurbished tenement. Teams of social workers will live in. Their office is part of the block. The security cameras are up and protected. The fenced-off playground's ready. There's just one problem: the existing neighbours.
That's what it was called originally, vulnerable families. Now it's out-and-out tow rags that are going in there.
So the battle lines in all this seem depressingly clear. The residents on the one hand organising their petitions and a referendum, the council on the other telling the world that the residents here are fascists and demagogues. And all this before a single tenant has even moved in. Dundee Council has a fight on its hands, but it knows that get tough laws, undercover snoopers and evictions simply add up to passing the buck. Problem families have to live somewhere, so this experiment will be closely watched.
As Russian President Boris Yeltsin recovers from his heart bypass operation, he's said to be alert and in a good mood, though impatient to be discharged from hospital. He's now taken back his presidential powers, including control of Russia's nuclear weapons. Pakistan's Benazir Bhutto has vowed to take legal action to win back her job as Prime Minister. She says she'll fight the President's decision to dismiss her through the courts. She also accused the President of ordering the kidnapping of her husband. The volcano, which melted a glacier in Iceland, causing torrential flooding and havoc in the south of the country, has erupted again. Last month's eruption of the Loki volcano caused the build-up of a massive underground lake beneath Europe's largest glacier. The flooding has destroyed bridges and power lines in its path. Ash and smoke have been sent almost 4,500 metres into the air. Zaire's President Mobutu has told UN envoy Raymond Chrétien he supported proposals for a multinational force to get relief to refugees in his country and help them return home. As the crisis grows in eastern Zaire and tension increases throughout the region, President Mobutu remains ensconced in a luxury villa in the south of France. Adam Holloway reports.
Far beyond the beaches of the Riviera, Zaire descends into chaos, while its president sits across the bay from Monte Carlo in his villa, amongst the palaces of the global super-rich. President Mobutu arrived here 3 days ago from Geneva. The Swiss no longer wanted him there, and his private security men didn't want us disturbing his privacy. Goma today stands in marked contrast, as on the streets they clear up bodies from the fighting, and on the roads perhaps hundreds of thousands of impoverished refugees move, they know not where. President Mobutu didn't have any answers either. Having invited the television cameras, he refused to say anything at all. He's ruled since 1965, since when he's amassed a huge personal fortune. His favourite drink is vintage Taittinger champagne, and he's even chartered Concorde to go to the dentist. And we found part of his entourage in a discreet and expensive hotel, including several Zairean army soldiers looking more like businessmen than members of his presidential guard. Neighbours say he keeps himself to himself, but he did once visit a local flower show.
To everyone's surprise, he turned up escorted by enormous numbers of bodyguards and French police, and he slowly processed round. The whole place seemed to go silent. And he came to one stall and sort of, as it were, threw down a purse and said, "I'll have the whole lot."
Because of the villa's secluded location, the best way to see it is by boat. The trees around the villa hide 2 swimming pools, a helipad and an enormous wine cellar. But given the size of the president's personal fortune, this is a relatively modest setup. One source estimates his wealth at $6 billion. That's about half the size of Zaire's entire national debt. And for the rest of his life, that money will probably buy him peace and security. 2 things denied the people of the country he's governed for the last 30 years.
Well, you're watching the morning news from ITN. It's 6 minutes to 6 on Thursday, the 7th of November. Here's a reminder of today's top stories. Martin Bryant, the man accused of the worst mass killing in modern Australian history, has changed his plea and confessed to all the 35 murders. 29-year-old Bryant had earlier pleaded not guilty to a total of 72 charges arising from the shooting spree in April at Port Arthur in Tasmania. President Bill Clinton is back in Washington, ready to begin his second term in the White House. And he's already grappling with a new crisis. Resignations from some high-profile members of his administration are forcing him to rebuild his cabinet. Secretary of State Warren Christopher has already said he wants to resign soon after the January inauguration. A leading candidate to replace him is America's UN Ambassador Madeleine Albright. Here it's reported this morning that the supermarket chain QuickSave is about to announce the closure of around 100 stores. Stiff competition from other supermarkets is being blamed for the closures. Some staff will be offered other work, but it's feared hundreds of jobs could still be lost. The thousands of bags which should have travelled with their owners on British Airways flights have instead been piling up at Heathrow. BA is struggling to deal with the backlog caused by belt failure on Terminal 4's baggage handling system. It's also involved in a dispute with baggage handling staff. Well, that's all from the ITN Morning News team for now. There's bulletins throughout the day on ITV, though. Next main news is at 12:30. Meanwhile, from all of us here, though, it's goodbye.
It's old. It's new. fast. It's slow. It's big. It's small. It's noisy. It's quiet. It's complex. It's simple. It's hundreds of different dishes from 3 billion very different people. It's half the world. It's Sharwood's.
Peugeot, the drive of your life.
Stuff. Look at it. Stuff to eat, stuff to clean, stuff to drink, stuff to rub, stuff to sprinkle, stuff to squeeze, stuff to stuff up other stuff. Stupid stuff. Stuff. I'm sick of stuff. Tomatoes with garlic, chili, whole, chopped, in juice, no juice. Tell you what, I grow my own. Extra virgin olive oil. Don't you have anyone with a little more experience? Gadgets, widgets, steam, cream, light beers, fruit beers, Monk's beer. 3 pair of sandals and a ball patch with that one. Cool, clean Holston pills. 1 color, beer color. 1 flavor, beer flavor. You want it with honeysuckle, monkey nuts, 50% less suds, or a kumquat ripple? You're in the wrong aisle, pal.
I'm not sure, officer. I only caught a glimpse of him.
OK, let's go over it again. You were serving breakfast in the boardroom.
Yes, and that's when the switch must have taken place. Then, after just 1 mouthful, they sold the company. I bought Happy Hour Hula Club in Honolulu. I think it's number 4. Could you ask him to growl?
Kellogg's Frosties. They'll bring out the tiger in you.
You go. Bye. The long...